Welcome back to AM Prime. My next guest, Ms. Denise Deming.
Thank you very much for inviting. I write a lot of stuff, share my opinion, in the hope that something will transform.
Well, one of the opinions that you have shared with the public in looking at tea, the distinction between the product that is Carnival and the experience that is Carnival. There doesn't seem to be that cohesion in terms of thinking. It seems to be just one thing. Carnival is Carnival, we'll celebrate, we'll rave, that's it. But you've pointed out it is very, very important to note that distinction. But please explain why, in your opinion, it is.
From a marketing perspective, there's a distinction between what the product is and what the experience is. What Trinidad needs to do is to figure out what is the Carnival product. Now, I know that that is a triggering thing for some historians, that they don't see Carnival as a product. They see it as weaving and so on, which is fine. All of that is lovely. It has its great history. A lot of people can remember all the things about Carnival, the various aspects of Carnival. But if we are going to make Carnival into something that somebody else wants to be part of, we have to identify the product. And to me, the Carnival has several products within it. But the major product is how do we attract people to the country to have an experience. So it's not just the experience of jumping up on a band on Carnival Day. It is the full experience from the time you think about it, and then you invest some money in it, and then you decide to come here. You can't arrive in Trinidad and the experience is to fill out a piece of paper. That triggers me every time I travel. I can't think of another country where you're still filling out this piece of paper. So the experience begins there. Then the continuation of the experience is they spend another hour to get their luggage. You know, or sometimes you get the luggage quickly, but you can't come out because every person is assessed by customs. By the time you get out to get into transportation, you're vexed. You're either vexed, frustrated, or in some cases, you've been given a drink for Carnival, you know. We do this nice giving people drinks in the airport and so on, so okay, they're a little, you know, so they don't feel that experience. But then they get home and they reflect on it and they say, but wait, it took me 2 hours from the time the plane landed to when I you know, came out of the airport. So the experience is extremely important.
Do you think that people coming to Trinidad would necessarily see these things as an issue, or rather a part of it all? Third world country, third world thinking, third world workings, that this is how we operate. Do you think that in itself is part of the product?
No, it's not. We have to move away from that. Our people deserve a more high-quality experience in everything that we do. So the distinction between the first world and the third world country is something that I don't associate with at all, because I think I am an equal human, and we in Trinidad are equal humans to anybody. So don't tell me about your development and my underdevelopment. You know, because a lot of my underdevelopment is because of you. You used us to generate your income, and then you suggested to us that we could get independence. And when we got independence, we now are at a stage where we have to transform what we have into something that makes each citizen proud and happy and want to be here.
So then when you speak about a structure for Carnival, exactly whom or who is responsible for actually creating and implementing this structure?
It's the government. The government has to create and implement a structure. The government is investing in Carnival. There was a headline which said that $147 million was not enough. We needed about $200 million for Carnival. So that is our investment. If you're going to invest $200 million, you need to be able to tell me as a citizen, is there an ROI? Is there a return on that investment? If not, why are we doing this? If that was a private sector organization and you offered to a private sector individual, you have $200 million. And would they say to you, well, you know, you're not going to get any ROI on that. That's only an investment in the carnivals. And if you dig a little deeper, we're spending far more than that. If we're spending that, we need to be very clear on the structure, the system, the process. We need to know what we are doing. We may not get any return on the investment because of how difficult it is, but at least we need to know that. Right now, all we know is that government allocates money to Carnival, and that's that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that it should be more private sector led?
Yes, I think it should be more private sector led, but I think there has to be a combination of private sector and the government. It is the people who work in the public service who understand their systems. The private sector, if there can be collaboration between the private sector and the public service, I think we will end up with something that is far better than what we have now.
Well, clearly, the public service has not necessarily done all that it can do.
Our public servants, I think the majority of them want to make a contribution. They want to work. But if the structures around them do not facilitate them working, then it's going to be what it is now. And that only happens when leadership makes decisions that says, this is the objective, this is the goal, this is the strategy that we are going to implement, these are the tactics that we have to implement. I am not seeing that in our country in any way. And that is sad. What is the goal? If you know what the goal is, then you can go down and say that this is the strategy, and then you can say this is the tactic. But that is not happening. And Carnival, I don't think there's a goal for Carnival, except it's going to happen.
Well, that really seems to be the attitude. We have to maintain the experience for people. We have to ensure that Carnival happens on Monday and Tuesday. So whatever we can put into it, we will. But you're right, I will agree with you. There doesn't seem to be a concentrated effort to actually deliver a product that could be something global. They speak about it being one of the greatest parties in the world, yet currently as we are speaking, there is another article that suggests that we should be even looking at Toronto's Carnival as more opportunity. Is it because TNT's Carnival is not providing enough opportunity?
What I think that happens with Carnival is that all the people who are involved in the bands, the calypsonians, the singers, and all of that, they all have a full template of the things that they will be doing immediately after Carnival. Mm-hmm. So they know the next Carnival they're going to, what they're going to do, and the next Carnival, what they're going to do, and so on. Now, you mentioned Toronto's Carnival. There's a difference between Toronto and Trinidad. Toronto is a structured, organized place. So they know where the Carnival is going to be. They know exactly where it's going to go down the street. That street is going to come back up, and by 10 o'clock, it's going to be done. In Trinidad, we don't have that. We don't have a structured approach. You know how many times we've done studies. Dr. Ray Furlong has done a study on how we could change the way the bands go to the Queen's Park Savannah. We now have another set of bands who go in the stadium. That's a different, and they're now ignoring the Queen's Park Savannah. Mm-hmm. So we don't have a structure that I am able to say, well, all right, I can meet my band on Arapita Avenue because by 10 o'clock they will be there. And don't tell me we can't do it, because there are apps that can help you to do that.
Well, a lot of people rely on these apps, sir. Where's the band? Hold on, and I'll tell you exactly where it is. But I want to take you back to a contribution that you made through a column in 20. It's entitled, "What If Tribe Ran the Country?" The column speaks a lot to many of the points that you've raised this morning. Your messaging has been consistent. The statement you made is, "If I had the opportunity to dream differently, then there are several persons who deliver Carnival products whom I would engage to impact our systems." Who are those persons?
People like Tribe has been phenomenal in this country. Have we sat and spoken to them and said, you know, what has made you so successful? We criticize them. There are a number of people who I know who criticize them and say, okay, China is making our costumes now. All they're doing is foreign exchange is going out, and when they get paid for the foreign exchange by people who are coming in, they don't bring the foreign exchange back in, and so on. People say those kinds of things. But the point is that they have transformed Carnival from when it used to be, all the costumes used to be made locally. That was a time in my life. I remember playing with Home Team. And I remember making costumes with Home Team because I couldn't afford the costume. And I got a costume because I worked in making the costumes for about 3 weeks. So Tribe has transformed that to, we get it from China. What is the possibility of us our seamstresses, our designers, making those costumes here. We'll still have to import some of the raw materials, but what's that possibility? When I speak about tribe, all I'm acknowledging is the success that they've had, and I'm asking the question, can we think through, if we got the people who are involved in tribe to collaborate, what could be the result?
Beyond just tribe in particular, other individuals, I mean, you made the comment earlier during this interview, you're not seeing that leadership, you're not seeing that effort. But whom in your eyes are the leaders that are the ones who should be leading Carnival?
I would look at every band that is successful, and I mean really successful, because there are some of them who, they're not very successful. And I would form some kind of consultation with them for us to rethink Carnival and ask ourselves, what do we need to do to change and transform Carnival into a product that has a high audience and has a high level of interest in it? Let's try and get the data. Who's being very successful, and get those people involved.
Speaking of data, we do not have any data collection, especially when it comes to Carnival. And you've made the point, what is the return on investment for $147 million? We never get an idea of what the return on investment is. This lack of data collection, or lack of effort for data collection, is that a major part of the issue, or is it just something that we could afford to say, hold up, that'll come in time?
You're asking a very complicated question there. Data in this country is difficult to get. So let's start with that. So if you can't get general data in this country, according to both Dr. Nurse and Dr. Watson, Carnival data is not a simple thing to put together. So what we need to be doing is ensure that there is some kind of investment in the data collection, so that we understand what it is. One of the things that Dr. Watson had said is that he doesn't think that Carnival has the potential to really earn foreign exchange, okay? And he's an economist, I am not, so I accept that. But instead of telling me it doesn't have the potential, where's the data? So I think the government should really be investing in that data collection so they know what it is. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it. That was Peter Drucker many, many years ago. So if we're not measuring things in this country, we're not managing it, because we don't know what we measure. We don't know it.
I like your points. Don't just make a statement to me about the experience. Tell me more about the data and how I can improve the product. I very much like it. Ms. Deming, as we come to the end of this interview, as we're reaching that point, in terms of Carnival, do you see us really continuing down this streak? I mean, these conversations happen all the time. Well, this is not necessarily something new. Do you feel as though your efforts are in vain?
I'm an optimist. I'm a glass half full person. So I really believe that our country is at the brink of transformation. And I really believe that citizens will continue to be involved, and they will continue to demand that we transform the foolishness that we're doing now.
That transformation that you speak of, is it forced? Is it being forced?
I think it's happening because all of us want to do better. We are in such a horrible state with crime that I have to do something. So what I have to do, I can only impact my little circle. So I'm trying my best in my little circle. And I think a lot more citizens are taking that as an approach. This is my place. It's a beautiful place. What can I do? Okay, what I can do is I will do the plastics, and I will find somewhere to put the plastics in. I get vexed with the plastics, right? So people, I think, are beginning to understand that we have to make a contribution and we have to make a difference. If the leaders don't see it, we can change them.
Ms. Deming, I look forward to your next column and your next contribution. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.